Our scripture reading for today, let us all turn to Leviticus chapter 11, verse 1 to 12. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 1 to 12 says, "The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, say to the Israelites, all animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animals that has a split hoof completely divided and that chews the cud. There are some that only chews the cud or only have a split hoof, but you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews the cud, does not have a split hoof. It is ceremonially unclean for you. The corny, though it chews the cud, does not have a split hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a split hoof. It is unclean for you. And the pig, though it has a split hoof completely divided, does not chew the cud, it is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat, nor touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Of all the creatures living in the water of the seas and the stream, you may eat any that have fins and scale. But all creatures in the seas or stream that does not have fins and scale, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to detest. And since you are to detest them, you must not eat their meat, and you must detest their carcasses. Any living in the water that does not have fins and scale is to be detestable to you." Amen.
Hallelujah. Welcome to the house of the Lord, and you are in the sanctuary. Amen. Amen. You know what that means? You are in sanctuary, meaning all your dangers, worries, or concerns, your sickness cannot come in through that door. You are here in safety. So just as the choir is saying, all your worries and concerns and all your hatred, let's put it down now. Right? This is a place of peace. And what a blessed day of the Lord that we can get together and see so many good faces and every member of our church. Today I'd like to share with the title, God's Command for Consecrated Life. In today's passage, Leviticus chapter 11, verses 1 through 12, we read about God's command for the Israelites in terms of what they can eat and what they cannot eat. But before we think about that, the book Leviticus in Hebrew is Vayikra, meaning God has called, those whom God has called. In Greek, it's kind of like ecclesia, the called out, people who are called out by God. Leviticus is Vayikra, meaning God has called. And this is a book that tells us a lot about the law of God, the commandments and the law, detailed laws, ceremonial laws, how to worship God, what to eat, what not to eat. And so this is one of the books of the Bibles that many Christians skip over and do not like to eat and read. Because it's about the law. Who wants to go and read the Constitution of the nation? Who wants to go and read about regulations and laws and what not to do? And especially for Christians today, we think the Old Testament law is irrelevant to our life because many of us eat pork already. And the law says don't eat pork, right? So we think, okay, it doesn't have anything to do with me, and so it's for the Jews and for the Orthodox traditional Jews right now, and it's for the Old Testament people. But if it has really nothing to do with us, God would not have allowed this book to be passed down to us today for us to read. So we need to get out of it what God has intended in writing this. Although we do not physically follow this. Like I said before, we eat pork. Some of us eat eel, things that were forbidden by this law. Why? Because Jesus freed us from the boundaries and limitations of these things. But Jesus reinterpreted the law. and allowed us to understand it spiritually in terms of how we should live a life of consecration. Because especially Leviticus chapter 11, but around this section is about consecrated life, how to live a life that is set apart, different from the Gentiles, because we are the people that God has called. Do you believe that you are called by God? And if we are called by God, there are things that God expects us to live by. And Leviticus tells us how to live a consecrated life, a life that is distinguished for the people who are called by God. And so today's passage is part of that, and it's talking about what to eat and what not to eat. Eating is taking in substance to put it into my system, so that it may give me strength and energy, so that I can do work, so that I can continue to live. It's an energy for life. Eating is not only speaking about literal food that we consume, but sometimes the information that comes into us. We eat. There is food for our souls, food for our minds, there's food for our spirit. So let us think about the spiritual food, the food for our soul and mind. And what is God telling us that we are able to eat and we are not supposed to eat? First, He says, you may eat the animals with split hoofs. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 3 we read today. Whatever divides a hoof, thus making a split hoofs, you may eat. This split is to be set apart. And the hoof is part of the foot, part of the leg and the foot. And it is referring to the path that they take. And so we need to be able to live a life where our path is split. Split in terms of being consecrated. We need to be able to learn to go the right way. Not a mixed up life, but a separated life. A distinguished life. Consecrated life. Let us think about a few people that lived a life of separation. We've been studying about Abraham. God called Abraham to separate from his father's house. He had to split himself off of his country, his relatives. Even God even said, Abraham, you should split from your nephew Lot. And he had to set apart and split off his human attachment to his only son that was left, Isaac. He needed to split off from his human thinking. And God told him to send away the maid and her son. And so Abraham lived his life of splitting. His path was split into two paths. And God told him which way to go. Second, we can think about Joseph's life. Joseph was set apart and put apart from his father and his family. Of course, physically it was because of the hatred of his brothers, but spiritually designed by God so that he can live a set apart life, consecrated life. Later, of course, in the physical way, he was set apart from his father and his family. He was sold to the Midianites. He became a slave in Egypt. But we can see that in his heart, there was a separation. Separation not in a negative way from his family. That's not what we're talking about. Separation from sin. When he was tempted by Potiphar's wife, in his heart, sin and right and wrong was already separated. It was already split. It was not mixed up. You know what the problem is with us? Sometimes we do not have the ability to separate and categorize what is good and what is evil because of the sin of mankind in the Garden of Eden. Fruit of knowledge of good and evil caused the good and evil to be mixed up, mumble jumbled, and became one lump in us, that we have a difficult time distinguishing what is good and right. And because we human beings are born in sin, what is good to me, what is beneficial to me and gain to me seems to be good, and what is bad to me seems to be bad. But Joseph was able to distinguish according to God's standards. And when she tempted him to sin with her, he said, I cannot sin against God. This split hoof, the ability to separate and good and evil, being able to take the good and reject the evil, is the greatest ability given to God's people, those whom God has called. Let us ask ourselves, do I have the ability to separate, categorize, even take away my emotion, take away my will and my drive and my hunger, my greed, and be able to clearly see the distinction? I pray that every member of Zion Church and your children, our children, will be given the gift to be able to distinguish good and evil. As parents, that is the best thing that we can pass down to our children, which is a very difficult thing, because we ourselves many times have a difficult time distinguishing good and evil. But if our children are able to receive that gift, you can pass down $1 million to them, you can pass down a house or a building, we can inherit many things to our children, but the best thing that we can pass down to our children is for them to be able to distinguish good and evil, take the good and reject evil. Then God will bless them with all things, like in the Garden of Eden. That is the restoration, that is the redemption. Being able to distinguish good and evil, set it apart. Our pathways, our footsteps are split, so that we know which way is the good way. Joseph had nobody to watch over him. Joseph had nobody to say, that is wrong. He did not even have his parents to guide him. But somehow, by the grace of God, by the word of God, he knew what was the right thing to do. In the eyes of God, not in the eyes of Potiphar or his wife or even Pharaoh, but in the eyes of God. What is the good thing? We can think about Elijah also. Elijah, during the time of the great evil by Ahab and Jezebel, everybody was worshiping idols. But Elijah stood up and rebuked them, and by the command of God. And God told Elijah to go to Brook Cherith. Cherith in Hebrew means to cut up and separate. God told Elijah to go to Brook Cherith when there was a great famine and drought. God fed him and provided water for him. God allowed Elijah to be nurtured, and from there he told Elijah to go to a house of a widow in Zarephath. Zarephath in Hebrew means to refine. Just as you would go through a refining process for gold, to have pure gold, what do? You heat it up, put it in fire, and other metals will melt away, but gold will remain. And that's how you get pure gold. Zarephath means refinery. Elijah was put into this refinery. It was a time of testing. And after he went through that, then God allowed Elijah to walk the path of transfiguration. and Elijah was taken up in the chariots of fire. He went through the process of separating himself from the sinful world, from his own sinfulness. I pray that just as God commanded us, eat the animals that have split hoofs, may we partake and all the things that come into us, may they be split so that we will be able to reject and discard the evil, sinfulness, and take in the good. How great would it be if we can instill or install a machine or a spiritual mechanism in our children that can filter out the bad things. Right? You cannot stay with your children 24/7 and watch over what they watch, what they intake, right? What they eat. You know, moms are really careful about what their children eat, but they don't know what they eat outside at school. Right? How great would it be if they put a filter in their mouth so that they can reject the bad food? Right? Some people were saying, please do not get offended by this. Some people were saying last Sunday, there were people in Goshen who did not have the privilege to eat the Egyptian food, and so their stomachs were okay. And people who had the privilege to eat the Egyptian food became our lions. How great would it be if we knew what we were eating, and if we were able to categorize and filter out. In other words, spiritually, when our children go out to the world, it is difficult for us to prevent them from all those bad exposures. Right? They will get exposed to simple things. But the important thing is, will they have the ability to distinguish, separate good and evil, and only take the good? Senior Pastor Reverend Abraham Park, he used to say, you cannot avoid a bird from flying over your head. A bird, like sinful exposure or sinful things, thoughts or influences. You cannot avoid a bird from flying over your head, but you can avoid that bird from nesting on your head. In other words, we need to pass down to our children the spiritual ability to avoid Satan from nesting over their heads. They will be exposed. They will come to know the sinfulness of this world, but the ability not to get involved, not to get into those things. And when we are able to do that, like Daniel's 3 friends, choosing the furnace of fire instead of bowing down to the golden statue, just to save their life. When we are able to do that, I believe that God will lead us to the path of transfiguration. Second instruction in today's passage, also in verse 3, Leviticus chapter 11, verse 3, he said, you may eat the animal that chews the cud, meaning the animal that regurgitates. The animal that takes out, kind of gross, but spits out what he ate from the stomach, like cows, and then chews it again to get more nutrition out of it. Spiritually, it's regurgitating, meditating upon the Word of God. How many of us go home and during the weekday go back to the sermon that we heard on Sunday and chew on it again? How many of us in the morning and night go to the Bible and meditate upon the Bible? At least one of the two. In the morning, before we start anything, or in the evening after we finish everything, or both. How many of us are regurgitating animals or people of God? Psalm chapter 1 verses 1 and 2. Psalm chapter 1 verses 1 and 2. How blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. This is point 1, right? Split, being able to live a consecrated life, not being mixed with those people. Verse 2, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He is telling us to live a life that regurgitates on the Word of God. Not having an arrogant attitude towards the Word of God, saying, oh, I heard that before, I don't have to regurgitate upon it. You know what, when I get really blessed these days, I read the Bible preparing the sermon, I read the Bible on my own, but when sometimes, not every day, it would be good if I do it every day, but sometimes I get a chance to read the Bible with my children. And when I read with them, I have to read slowly. And I cannot read too much, because they'll fall asleep. I have to finish reading before they fall asleep, right? And so I read just a short passage slowly, and I get so blessed. I said, oh, this was in the Bible in the passage that I read probably more than 100 times. When I read slowly, chewing on it, slowly, one by one, and then explaining to them about what it means. It blesses me. And I pray that you may try this at home. To yourself or to your children, read it slowly, and the Word will really come alive. That's what it means, chewing on the cud. You think you already chewed it and digested it, but you take it out again and chew it some more, and there's so much taste, beautiful taste and energy and nutrition that comes out from the Word of God. Psalm 119 verse 97, Psalm 119 verse 97. Oh, how I love your law. It is my meditation all the day. And Joshua chapter 1 verse 8 tells us, Joshua 1:8, it says, this book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have success. Our children and we ourselves, we will become prosperous and successful when we are careful to read the Bible and to do according to it. The blessed ones, as Psalm chapter 1 we read, are the ones that will meditate upon the word of the Lord day and night. Blessed ones and successful ones are the ones who do not depart from the word of God. If you want to be successful in this world, the first thing we need to do, let us meditate and regurgitate upon the word of God. But on the contrary, the Pharisees during the time of Jesus, they did not regurgitate upon the word. They were proud. They knew a lot in the head. They knew the Bible verses. They were able to recite Bible verses. They were memorizing things. They knew the doctrines. They knew the systematic theology. They knew what to say. But this is what Jesus said. Matthew 22 verse 29. Matthew 22 verse 29. But Jesus answered and said to them, you are mistaken, not understanding the scriptures nor the power of God. Same thing with Mark chapter 12 verse 24. He said, you guys memorize and you think you know the Bible, but you don't understand the scripture. I pray that we may not become like the Pharisees, thinking that we know. But they missed Jesus Christ. Even when He came to their land during their time, they missed Him. They crucified Him because they did not understand. I pray that we may become humble people who are able to regurgitate even on the simplest message of the Bible, so that we may understand. Amen. Lastly, third, he said, you may not eat the animal that does not have fins and scales. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 12 in today's passage. I'll read it for you again. Whatever in the water does not have fins and scales is abhorrent to you, detestable to you. It's almost like blasphemy to you. And he's saying you should detest it, meaning you should hate it. Stay away from it. So what's the thing about fins and scales? For the fish in the water, what do the fins and scales do? Fins and scales give them direction. They are able to maneuver well, rather than squirming and swarming and just going everywhere. They know how to proceed and make progress. They know how to go forward. They know how to turn left and turn right because they have fins and scales. He's telling us we need to live a life of faith that has a direction, where we know where to go. Some of you might understand, some teachers will testify to this. Students in school. There are students that study and they will get good grades on their exams. There are students that will study hard and hard, but they don't get good grades when they take the test. What's the difference? Another category is, there are students in universities or high school who make good progress. But there are students who study hard and do well, but then they don't make much of a progress. The difference is, the students who study and get good grades, they have a good sense of direction, what to study for. They need to study the right things, because they remember what the teachers are teaching, and they know which direction the teachers are going. They know what they expect. And so they study the right things. But there are students that study. I had a friend in university who studied from morning to night, literally, and do not do very good on these exams. And he would get really, really upset, and he would really, really get angry at us, saying, I studied more than you guys, and how can it be? But the way he studies everything not knowing which direction to go. And because he studies so many things, he forgets all of them. Students who succeed and who make good progress are the students who have a definite goal. They know why they're at school, they know what they're going to do after school. They have a clear goal. But there are students who go to school just because they have to go. Because mom and dad wants me in the university. Because I have nothing else to do. I don't really know what I'm going to do. There's no direction. There's no purpose. And those people will not progress that much. Same thing in the society, in the workplaces. People who have a right direction, a clear purpose, they'll make progress. Same thing with our life of faith. We all believe in God, we all come to church, but for what? Just so that I can become rich or be blessed in the world? What is a clear, right direction of our life of faith? Those who have the right direction are those who can live a life of consecration. Students who have a clear goal, it will be easier for them to refrain from other things. like playing games. Because they have a goal. A student that has a goal to get straight A's, 5.0 GPA or 4.5 GPA, they will not have time for many other things because they have that goal. You don't need to tell them, don't do this, don't do that, because they know what to do to reach that goal. But those who do not have that kind of goal, it's okay for them to spend time and waste time and do other things because they don't have that goal. Same thing with our spiritual life. If we have a searching goal, that will teach us what to do. And that will cause us to be faithful. Other things will not get in the way. In doing God's work, those who have a certain goal will be consistent also, will be faithful. Those who do not, it all depends on their condition. Oh, I don't feel like doing this. Today I don't feel like standing in choir, so I don't feel good, my voice is weak. Choir is just an example. But our faithfulness, our consistency comes when we have a clear goal. Apostle Paul said, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 26. 1 Corinthians 9:26. Therefore I run in such a way, not as without aim. I box in such a way, not as beating the air. I pray that our life of faith is not just beating in the air. Our life of faith is not just a practice, not just an exercise. But I pray that our life of faith will have a certain aim and direction. Philippians 3:13 through 14. Philippians 3:13 through 14. Brethren, I do not regard myself as having laid hold of it yet, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and reaching forward to what lies ahead. He knows what to put behind and he knows what to go forward to reach. I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. I pray that we may have that goal and that we may know what kind of pace we need to keep in order to reach that goal in time. And I pray that we, Zion Church, may continue to press on toward that goal. And God will give us that prize in Jesus Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 1. 2 Corinthians 6:1. And working together with him, we also urge you not to receive the grace of God in vain. We receive the grace, but if we don't know what that is for, we don't know where it's from, we don't know what purpose, and we only have our own intention, it might be in vain. The Bible speaks about throwing a diamond or a precious thing to the swine. To them, it doesn't mean anything. Taking it in vain. I pray that God's grace we may not receive in vain. Philippians 2:16 also, holding fast to the word of life, so that in the day of Christ I will have reason to glory, because I did not run in vain, nor toil in vain. We're working hard. We come to every Sunday. Most of you come to every Wednesday. Serve in the church. Many things. But how wasteful, what a great loss it would be if that was all in vain. And it is those who live their life of faith with aim and with direction that will bear beautiful fruit in time when Jesus wants it. Unlike the fig tree, when Jesus wanted the fruit and it wasn't there. May we, regardless of the seasons of this world, may we be able to bear the fruit that our Lord is looking for at the time when He wants it. Amen. As conclusion, we have learned about how to live a consecrated life. First, we have to learn to distinguish good and evil. And it is through the measurement of the canon, the Word of God, that will allow us what is right and what is wrong, what is right and what is left. And second, we have learned that we must meditate upon the Word, regurgitate upon the Word. That is what will give us life and strength. That is what will distinguish us from the world. That is what will give us wisdom of life. And third, we have learned that we must have direction, a sense of direction that God is leading us to. And through all this, in today's chapter, Leviticus chapter 11, he goes through all this, and towards the end, in verse 45, he says, this is God speaking to the Israelites, "For I am the Lord who brought you up from the land of Egypt to be your God. Thus you shall be holy, for I am holy." He says, by doing this, by living a consecrated life, you will be like me. You will my image, the image of God will be restored unto you. And that image is the holiness. He says, I am holy, and that's why you should be holy. I tell my son, you look like that because you're my son. Because you have my blood. You cannot escape it even if you don't like it. You're my son. Your friends might not do these things, but you have to do this because you're my son, kind of thing. God is telling us, you are my children, so you have to look like me. You have to have my image. And my image is holiness, being set apart from dirty things, unclean things. Your life is dedicated. Colossians chapter 3 verses 8 through 10. I'll read it for you. Colossians 3, 8 through 10. But now you also put them all aside: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive speech from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you laid aside the old self with its evil practices, and have put on the new self, who is being renewed to a true knowledge according to the image of the one who created him. So put that aside, and please believe that we have been renewed to the true knowledge of God's Word according to the image of the one who created us. Amen? Romans chapter 12 verse 2. And do not be conformed to this world, meaning do not change your image. Do not change your face to the image of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. When God gives us His image, His likeness, we will become perfect just like Him. Although we ourselves cannot be perfect, He puts on that perfect righteousness upon us. I pray that Zion Church members and everyone who's here will put on the image of God through this consecrated life. And when we do that, there are blessings that He will give to us. First, we can become His offering, meaning He will accept us. He will accept our prayers. He will accept our praise. He will accept our worship. You know, we go through this and imagine God says, I don't know. I don't remember you worshiping me. It's not counted. What a waste would it be? How shocking would it be if we, at the end of this age, when the Lord comes and says, I don't remember you. We say, we called unto you, Lord and Lord, we worshipped you, but I don't remember you. You never reached up to heaven. It is when we become, it's the clean offering. Genesis 8:20 says, Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal and of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. We need to become the consecrated offering to God, so that our prayers may reach up to the kingdom of heaven, throne of God. Second blessing is that we will become people of God's name, God's people. Ezekiel 37 verse 23. Ezekiel 37:23. They will no longer defile themselves with their idols, or with their detestable things, or with any of their transgressions, but I will deliver them from all their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and will cleanse them, and they will be my people, and I will be their God. They will be your people. He will be your God, and we will be God's people. And thirdly, lastly, He will allow us to serve in His temple, in His dwelling. Meaning, even not only today here in this church, but continue into the kingdom, His temple and His dwelling in the kingdom of heaven. He will allow us to continue on serving Him. We can do Father's work. What we do will become Father's work. Numbers chapter 8, verse 15. Then after the Levites may go in to serve the tent of meeting, but you shall cleanse them and present them as a wave offering. I pray in the name of the Lord that everyone here, every member of Zion Church, and all of our children will become cleansed, purified, distinguished from the sinfulness of this world, so that we may be acceptable to God. Every work we do with our hands will glorify Him. Every word that we speak with our lips will become a prayer that will honor our God. And all the things that come into them, to us, will be filtered out through the Holy Spirit, so that we will only receive blessings from God, and the sinfulness and the curse will be discarded. And this is the greatest blessing that we can give on to our children. May our children really become consecrated, holy people of God, true sons and daughters that will save this world. Amen. Let us pray.